Hello, everybody. Hope everyone is having a great Monday evening. We'll get started here in just a few moments. I would have came on a little bit earlier, but I was wanting to get the article done fast, get the information out as fast as possible. But also, Guthrie baseball played tonight, and went over and watched that, and then I actually had dinner with the wife. So Cody Knox on YouTube. Back to have you back on YouTube, Cody. Thank you. Comments are working. Starting to get a flow on that. Yes, I can mute it. I haven't officially started yet. All right. Sorry. We had a little quick meeting. So, okay, we will get started here in just a second. Be glad to take your questions as it is the fourth and final day. As many people now know, Zach Simmons was found not guilty. Come up here in a few moments. I will have the interviews. Scott Adams, the attorney for Zach Simmons, I'll have that. And then also a family representative for Mandy Gorsuch and her family. We're able to talk to two of those people today, and I will have both of those video interviews in this video cast here, podcast, whatever you want to look at, this update here on the Zach Simmons deal. So let's get started. I will kind of go over what happened today. And a lot of it today was just kind of a wait and see, wait type day for jurors. Okay, here we go. All right, today was the fourth and final day of the Zach Simmons trial. It's again, if you've been following on the first 3 days, and an article on Guthrie News page today, but Zach Simmons back in October 26, 2019 was charged on that night for leaving the scene of a fatality accident. If you follow along on the first 3 days of this podcast, kind of went over what happened. Mandy Gorsuch with her wife, Jenny Gorsuch, their friends, Tommy McClure and Tommy McClure's son, Josh Schroeder, was the one party. The other party, Zach Simmons, his then girlfriend, now wife, Mallory Simmons, and Louis Murillo, two separate parties. We heard from all of those except for Mallory Simmons. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. We heard from police officers. We've heard from a couple of witnesses as well. So today, on Monday, the final day here, it all started this morning. Eric Duval, who was the medical examiner who did the autopsy on the body. The autopsy, again, the night that it happened was October 26th. At around 11:30, Mandy was pronounced dead about 1:13 on the 27th. And then on 28th, there was an autopsy done. The doctor talked about some external injuries. There was also some internal injuries. The medical examiner today, hip fractures, torn lung, aorta torn, pelvis fracture. The cause of death, he said, was torso injuries, blunt force trauma. And then the toxicology report on Mandy Gorsuch, the 33-year-old who died, had a blood alcohol content of 0.11. There was very little cross, only one question, and the state rests at 9:10 this morning. And then Judge Corley asked Scott Adams, the attorney for Scott Simmons, that you can call your first witness. And Scott Adams asked the judge, "Can I have a moment?" Went over to talk to Zach and the other attorney, and the defense rests. They didn't call one single witness today, and so with that, it was time for a judge to work on his final instructions, and he spoke with both attorneys to make sure the instructions for the juries for the jurors were what they were believed correct. And then the judge gave the instructions to the jurors. And actually, I take that back. They had closing arguments before all that good stuff as well. I noted in my notes that Zach had about 12 people on his side, and Mandy had about 15 family friend members on her side. There was definitely the biggest day attendance-wise inside the courtroom. Today, first time I got to see Mandy Simmons. She arrived in the courtroom at 9:42 after the state, after all the witnesses, all that stuff, all the testifying was done. And then other family members, including Al Simmons, Zach's dad, was also in the courtroom along with his mother, I think grandmother as well. So just kind of go by the notes here. So at 10:06, the state had their closing, and one of the assistant district attorneys talked for 16 minutes. And then Scott Adams had his chance, and he spoke for 38 plus 5. He spoke for 43 minutes during his closing. And then the state had one last time in their closing statements, and they spoke for the second assistant district attorney spoke for 18 minutes for their closing arguments. I can kind of maybe real quickly go over what the state had to do. There were 6 elements that the state had to prove to the jurors. And so the jurors had to hear these 6 things. I'm trying to find my notes here. I apologize. There were 6 things they had to find, 6 elements. Give me 1 second here. I'm trying to find it. Coming up here in a second, I'll have the video interview with Scott Adams and also a family member of Mandy Gorsuch here in just a second. But I do want to get those six elements in here, because this is what the jurors had to consider. And I think that was during Carson's. Okay, found it. Sorry. So here were the 6 things that the jurors had to. By the way, the jurors. Well, we'll go there in a second. Defendant drove a vehicle. I think we all can check that one off. Involved in an accident. We can check that one off. Those are pretty easy. The result in the death of a person. We can check that one. The one that's the 2 of them, the last 2 that were probably the hardest for the jurors that needed over 5 hours today. Did the defendants, Zach Simmons, did he willfully do it, or did he maliciously do that? That's what the jurors had to decide. And also they had to decide, did he fail to stop the vehicle with someone needing help? So those were the elements that the state had to convince the jury. Ultimately, the jurors did not find it that way. But I have a lot of notes on the final statements. I don't know if you guys want to hear that or not, but I thought both sides did pretty good in their testimony, in their final closing. But after all that, the jurors were excused at 11:25. They had a couple questions that came down. Nothing too big of question wise, and the decision came down at 4:40. The families come in, the attorneys come back in, and it's a real quick process. The juror comes downstairs, they sit down, the court clerk reads it. It was real simple. We the people find Zach Simmons not guilty, and that was it. Judge excused them. When the not guilty verdict, you can see Zach over there with his hands in his face, crying, relieved. I can hear family members of Zach crying. Mallory, I looked over her; she was happy, crying as well. His wife. And then you can hear some of the Mandy Gorsuch family obviously upset with the decision inside the courtroom. I will say the jurors did a great job the entire time. They listened to every witness. I didn't see very many nodding off or looking around like they were bored. I thought they were completely engaged the entire time. And there's going to be people on both sides of this deal. I'm not here to tell you which side I would do it. My little opinion here in a second, we're going to hear from Scott Adams, the attorney for Zach Simmons. We're also going to hear from a family member of Mandy Gorsuch, and I'll have those for you here in a second. But if I was a juror, and I kind of, I didn't have a say in either party. I was just there listening to the facts for the first time as well. There's no doubt Mandy was run over by the truck. Was it on purpose? Don't know. Did he get out and see? Did he look back? Whether he got out or not, did he look back and see that there was chaos behind him? I don't know. And there was really no hard evidence to say that he knew. Nothing came across that 100% that he knew. And it's easy I know it's easy to get on social media and say this and say that, but if you're going to put someone in prison for 10 years, you have got to have some hard evidence for leaving the scene of a fatality accident knowingly or losing my word here, willfully or maliciously did it on purpose. So I didn't have that strong. It was going to be a tough case for them the entire time. I was waiting for it. The evidence by most of the witnesses, they were all drinking. I think all parties involved, obviously they were drinking, bar hopping. They were all drinking. So just a tough deal. But again, as someone that I was in there for all day, I just didn't hear that one thing that made me go there. I had some thoughts of maybe what had happened, but those are just my thoughts. And you got to the state has to prove the burden to do it. So, let me, so I've rambled on here a little bit. I want you to hear what Scott Adams, the attorney for Zach Simmons, had to say. The female voice that you hear is Caitlin Ogle at Channel 4. And then the voice, you'll hear my voice as well. I think she had 3 questions. I think I had 3 questions. But I want you guys to hear what Scott Adams, the attorney for Zachary Simmons, had to say.
Ready? Mm-hmm. It was a long, hard-fought case. It's a tragedy that there's no winners here, except Zach gets to go home, which is all we were trying to accomplish. And I think the jury saw the truth in the case. Zach had no idea he was involved in an accident, and he can put this behind him and move on, and that's all that we're happy for right now.
What do you think it was that made the jury believe that?
I think it was just showing everything that happened. I mean, it was showing the intoxication level of what was going on, that whenever the accident happened, Zach had no knowledge that he had run over anyone. There's a number of things that came out, but I just think that the jury was able to take a hard look at everything together and see that Zach certainly didn't do this on purpose, had no ill will or ill intentions at all, and it was just a tragic accident, really.
Can you tell us if Zach feels any remorse?
Well, anybody involved in a fatality accident has remorse, and certainly Zach has remorse that he was involved in this situation. It's just one of these deals that he's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life, and he needs to move on, and everyone needs to put this to the side and move on with their lives.
You've had some big trials in the state. You showed a little emotion today as well. What was that about?
Because of Zach. I've got to, the last 2.5 years, I've got to know Zach and his family. They're incredible people, just down to earth, and really with everything he's got going on in his life with his kids and everything, I wanted him to be able to spend some quality time with him, and obviously if he's in prison, that's not going to happen.
So one question I would have is, we heard from everybody at the scene except for Mallory. We never heard from Mallory, which would have been that would get everybody that was there on the stand. The state didn't call her. You didn't call her.
State didn't call her, and it's not my burden.
Correct.
And it's like I told them in closing, that's not my burden. I didn't. If they wanted her, they could have subpoenaed her and had her here. They didn't, and I chose not to call her. At the time that we rested right behind them, I was of the opinion we were ahead, and there was no reason to try to rock the boat at that point in time.
The longer it went over 5 hours for jurors' side. Did you feel better as it went on? A little bit more
Yeah,
nervous.
but
as it
anytime you have 12 people in the community trying to decide a case, it's the worst part of every trial. I've done it, 100 times, and every time it's horrible and I hate it, but there's nothing you can do about it. So we're just glad it's over.
What happens now for Zach?
Well, Zach can get on with his life. I mean, he has some other issues he's got to deal with, his kids and stuff like that, but he's going to get on with his life and be a productive member of here in Logan County. So I'm looking forward to that. I think some exciting things will happen for Zach in the future.
I'm sure Mandy's family didn't like the things they had to hear today throughout the entire week. Just a message to the
well, the
Gorsuch
message
family.
to them is, we truly, it's tragic, it's horrible, and what happened to Mandy never should have happened, and I hate it, and I feel sorry for them, and I mourn for them, and I pray for them, and I hope that they can get through this. And I certainly didn't say anything in the courtroom that I intended to hurt their feelings or to do anything to upset them. That was never my intent. Unfortunately, during a trial, a lot of things happen that people take issue with, and I understand that. That's part of the game. I've done this a long time, and I've been through a lot of trials where people get upset with me, but particularly with their family, I apologize to them that all this has had to happen, that they've lost a beautiful, wonderful daughter, and I know that that's difficult for anyone. I lost a brother. I know how difficult that is on a family. It's devastating, but at this point in time, the law has spoken, and as difficult as it is, everyone needs to move on.
Perfect. Okay. I think that's all.
And that was Scott Adams, the attorney for Zach Simmons. That's the entire interview, and I'll try to make that a different podcast as well if anybody wants to hear that a second time, or you can listen to this one again as well. So those were the thoughts of Scott Adams, and I will say Scott Adams is very, very good at what he does, and I thought he did a good job. There's a few things that he kind of got lucky with a few times. One of the, if you remember, and one of the things that kind of sticks out in closing arguments, and I can't take full credit for this, but someone had brought it up to me, but during closing arguments, he had talked about Tommy McClure, who was part of the group with Mandy Gorsuch. He said that Tommy had 12 beers and couldn't write a statement, all that stuff. And he said, well, if he had 12 beers, that probably really means 24. Well, the state didn't bring this up in their closing part, but during the interview with Lieutenant Bruning in the police interview the following day, Zach said he had no more than 5 beers. Well, if Tommy had 12 but probably 24, does that mean Zach had 5 but probably 10? I was ready for that didn't come up, but that's one of the things I do remember in closing that kind of stood out. So that was Scott Adams. Shortly after that, we were trying to. It's kind of crazy because I was wanting to hear from Scott Adams for sure. I was trying to get to talk to a jury member or two if they were willing to talk, but they got out pretty quick from the courthouse. Probably didn't want to deal with any TV cameras or anything like that. But I want to definitely talk to Scott. Then my next goal after that was to quickly go find a family member. This family member that we're getting ready to hear from came up to us and wanted to speak on camera, and we weren't unable to get to Mandy's mom, dad, brother, if they were even wanting to talk. But the next interview, this guy came out and seeked us and wanted to give his account of what happened. And toward the end of the video, you'll hear ask me who he is, and I forget his name as well. I apologize. You'll hear it at the end. But here is one of the family members of Mandy Gorsuch.
Go ahead and tell me when. Hi, my name is Daniel Hobson.
Oh, wait. If you just want to look at
Yes.
me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. Hi.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Daniel Hobson. I'm here at the Logan County Courthouse. And today, Zachary Simmons was found not guilty of running over a female while drinking and bar hopping. What I'm afraid of is the precedents that Logan County has set is that it is better to flee the scene of an accident when drinking. Do not stay and render aid, because if you do, you're automatically guilty. We never got a blood alcohol content on Zach because it was days later. But if you're a family member that has lost a loved one due to an accident, this guy goes off in Payne County a couple months later and gets a DUI while on probation. He was on probation, told not to drive. He was told not to drink, specifically by the court. But since the DA was in Payne County, the same DA of Logan County, they went ahead and sent it all back here. And we got a not guilty. But if, the one thing I really had a problem with in the whole trial was that the defense couldn't even say her name properly. Mandy Gorsuch. The family, on a break, respectfully asked him to get her name right, to treat her as a human being, and to treat her like she deserves some dignity as a human being. The family is totally distraught because what precedence does this set? I have a 22-year-old child that I'm going to go home and tell him tonight, if you're involved in an accident and you've been drinking, or which I pray he doesn't, I tell him not to, but if he was, I would say flee the scene of a fatality accident. Because if you get a good attorney like Scott Adams, you will be found not guilty. Reference Paige Powell and Mariah Sanchez. Scott Adams represented them. Paige was in an accident. I know this is not the same case, and you'll probably edit this and can't say it. But Scott Adams represented Paige Powell, whose dad was a sheriff here, and she got probation. She never did one day in jail, even though in an accident where they found alcohol on her, but he knew the judges. So sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And Logan County has what we call the good old boy system. I have spoken with authoritarians here that say it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Daniel, I apologize.
Go ahead.
In relation to the family?
My wife is Mandy's, Sherry is Mandy's mother. My wife is Debbie.
Okay.
And so she was my niece. I married into the family. I am specifically wanting to speak on my disgust, not at the jurors, but at the fact that the legal system it's based off of money. It is better off to be a repeat offender. That's why we keep letting people go. It pads pockets. Well, isn't that fantastic? But the precedent that was set tonight was that if I go out and drink and decide to drive and I accidentally run somebody over, if I got enough money to buy a good defense like Scott Adams, who represented Paige Powell in the death of Mariah Sanchez, hey, maybe I'll just do all right. From what I hear, Zach's pockets run pretty deep with his family. It's a Logan County known thing that they got pockets that run deep. I just am afraid that maybe money paid for the defense of all this. We know it paid for the defense. But the fact of it is, it was pretty hands down. How do you run somebody over and not know that you hit somebody? The only time you're going to flee the scene of something like that is if you've been drinking or if you're high on meth or coke or whatever. The problem we're having is that it comes down to, if you're doing drugs or drinking and you decide to get behind the wheel, flee the scene of the accident. And then plea out with a good attorney. But what you better not do is stay at the scene.
And that was one of the family members of Mandy Gorsuch, as you can tell, very, very upset. All these cases like that are like that. And so I'm sure there's a lot of emotion, as you can tell there. A few things from that. The judge in this case is not from Guthrie. I think all the judges are fair judges. I'll say this again. The jurors spent 5 hours and 15 minutes up there going back and forth. There was a time that I thought for the longest time there were going to be a split jury, a hung jury, and we're going to have to go through this entire process again. The judge set the jurors. The jurors made the decision, and I think it's probably the right as far as the evidence was there. He did say I will say this: Zach Simmons is very lucky. I mean, there's been some charges in the past. This has come up. Some other things have come up after this incident, and so this when he says he's right. Zach Simmons hopefully can slow down and reflect and maybe change some things that he's accused of. But if he did stop, I'm sure this would have been a whole different deal. So he said, I don't endorse what that guy says, the drive off. But in this case, it does look like if he drove away, he saved him maybe some other things as well, because we don't know if he stops, if he's drunk, if he's not drunk. He says he wasn't drunk. Of course, we don't know that. If he, just a lot of unknown questions. But anyway, I didn't edit any of that video between Scott or that gentleman that we just heard from. So again, Scott Adams, the attorney, went after Scott, and you can kind of tell that he had a lot of respect for Scott, although this one went against him. But again, the jurors made this final decision. A judge didn't. In those cases, it was a jury. So he said, "Good old boy system." I'm not going to change anybody's opinion if you think it's there or not. But again, 12 jurors, 7 women, 5 men made that decision. So that is those were the 2 interviews that we were able to do today. The verdict was announced just around 5:00 today. Not guilty. The judge exonerated that bond, so he's free. He does have some other cases that are now pending, I think, in Payne County. But anyway, that is what the 4th and final day of the Zach Simmons trial. So we'll see here real quick. I'll kind of go through some of your comments here, and I will try to address them as much as I can. Judy says, Chris, I'm not accusing, but it seems like you are very familiar with Scott. Nope. Thanks for the question. I'd be glad I don't know Scott personally. I have the only time I have seen Scott Adams is the Logan County courtroom. Maybe other times, but it's always been in a reporter attorney type deal. Scott Adams represented Lieutenant Mark Bruning when he went through the city deal, the Page Powell deal. There's been some other cases that Scott Adams has. I'm not going to deny it. I think Scott is one of the best trial attorneys out there. I've seen it up front and personal. The only time I've seen him lose a trial that I'm aware of, I'm sure he's lost some, but it was the Daniel Holtz call, the Oklahoma City police officer. Scott was the attorney for them. And I'm just being honest with you. I do not know. I've never been to his law office. I've seen him. I've talked to him. I've seen him in a jury trial. I've seen him talk to witnesses. I've seen him talk to jurors. And I am 100% on base with Scott Adams. He is a tremendous. Is he perfect? No, but I'm impressed when I watch Scott Adams. Whether I know a lot of people don't want to hear that right now, but he is good at what he does. And so that's correct, Judy. I'm familiar with him in a reporter attorney type deal in a setting. So, Judy says, I met Zach. So let me see here. I'm not accusing, but it seems you're familiar with Zach. Judy, no, I do not know. I didn't know Zach, and I've never met Zach. I'm sure the attorneys, the judges, obviously the jurors said they didn't know him. They all said they didn't know him. So as far as moving this case to another county, I don't think that was necessary. I remember Zach is from Mulhall, and I didn't recognize any of the jurors. I didn't know any of them. You lived here your entire life. You think you would know one or two, but it was a mix. There was a lot of folks from Southern Logan County in the juror trial. There's a couple from Crescent. So people kind of forget Logan County is getting larger and larger with population. So this happened in Guthrie. Remember, there's a lot of people in Southern Logan County. There's people in Eastern Logan County, Crescent, Coyle. Southern Logan County is huge amount of people. So I honestly thought it was a fair trial with with attorneys, judges, jurors. I didn't know Zach one bit, and I can see where the jurors came to their decision. If there's any other questions, I'll be glad to ask them as much as possible. If there was anything in closing arguments in there, I'll give it a few more minutes here. If there's no questions, I will get on out of here and let you guys have the rest of the night. Appreciate everyone asking the questions on this 4 days of trial. Just being able to talk to you guys and just kind of going through the steps of this last deal. So anyway, this will replay. I'll put this on the podcast page if anybody wants to go back and listen to what Scott Adams or Mandy Gorsuch family has to say. See here, got a question here. Misty asked. Oops, sorry, wrong button. Misty asked, I may have overlooked it, but I didn't see the case on OSCN. I have not seen the case in a while. I know it was on there before the trial, Misty. Let me see here real quick, look it up. But it should still, I don't think it'd be off that fast. If you look on OSCN, it probably goes by the full name of Zachary, not Zach, but Zachary. And yes, I still see it. Charged on October 31st, 2019. And the final notes. It doesn't look like the final notes have been put in there. I lied. The final notes are there. Case comes before jury trial. State appears by Assistant District Attorneys Carson Turner and J.R. Kulka. Defendant in person with Attorney Scott Adams and Robert Gray. Robert Gray running for Oklahoma County District Attorney, trying to go on the other side of the table. Let's see here. Parties announced ready to proceed. Witnesses sworn in testify. The state rests. The defendant rests. The court instructs the jury on law as it applies to the case. Closing arguments are heard. The jury retires to deliberate. The jury turns with the verdict. The jury finds the defendant is not guilty. The court thanks the jury for the service. Court is adjourned. And that was just right about 5 o'clock today. So it is still on there, Misty, if you want to go there and find that. Jill, did I miss your opinion on closings? Did you give one? I didn't know if anyone wanted to hear that. I thought Scott went through every single witness that the state brought up. He went through every single one of them. Really all the stuff, extremely intoxicated, very intoxicated, fight inside, all that stuff inside really didn't weigh a whole lot to me, but he went through all that. It was all about when he took off. And we all knew there was arguments on both sides. I'm going to see if there's anything. Dominic Gwynn, the only witness that was not related to either party, said he remembers peeling out, that he heard the truck peeling out. And I thought Scott Adams did a good job of bringing up that there were no tire marks. The state didn't show any tread marks or anything there as far as what peeling out might be. I thought that, he goes, where's the video of that happening? That was not on there. He tried to go after the officers a little bit. Both sides kept saying, use your common sense. Use your common sense. Scott did mention, I thought, I did write this down. He said, Zach's intention was to go into the police department. Remember, he took off. Mandy got hit, pulled into the police department parking spot. Scott said Zach's intention was to go into the police department, but see someone running at him. Nobody said anything in the car. What did Zach know? No conviction. So really, I thought both sides did pretty good. I did find it a little bit interesting. The Carson Turner said, where's the quote at? If you feel sorry for Zach, give him a year. If you feel sorry for Mandy, give him 10 years. And I know we kind of talked a little bit about that. Was that the right thing to say? Maybe they were just looking for any type of a guilty verdict. But I thought both sides did well. I think by the time the closing came to, I think the jurors probably understood what was going on. But both sides did a good job of telling their story, but never did hear from the state that he knew. Zach did not take the stand, but remember on day 3, we heard his entire interview with Lieutenant Mark Bruning the day after. And I got to tell you, Zach, when he thought he had run over some toes, if you go back to Lieutenant Bruning, first something he had run over a lady's toes, and he was like, I didn't run over any toes. Louis Murillo, who was in the back of on the back seat, said he thought they had run over a curve. So there was really no evidence in there that Zach knew that he had hit somebody and that he left on purpose. It was never proven. And that's what the jurors had to do. It was going to be a tough case for that to be proven. And the jurors never heard that. And they came back with a decision that we can't put somebody in jail without any proof, without the burden of proof. It was never there. Ron Arnold, yeah, absolutely. Ron Arnold says, sorry for the family of the victim. Yeah, no doubt. They were wanting justice. They lost a loved one. You know how she died, with the truck. And it's no doubt tough deal. And they were obviously upset and got out of the courtroom as fast as they could today. Kat asked, so was he charged with anything at all, like negligence, or can this be appealed? Nope, it's this is over. Not guilty. That would be, I think, is that double jeopardy? Help me out, law people. But no, you cannot be charged for another crime of this event. So no murder charges. The intent was not there. Could it be manslaughter? If there was a DUI case, you could, but remember he took off, or drove off, I should say. So can't go manslaughter there. Did she run out of the vehicle in front of? There's a bunch of stuff that just a whole bunch of unknown stuff. So. All right. I don't see any more direct questions. I'll give you a few more seconds, and I hope everyone has a great week. It's been kind of crazy. I can tell you the 89er stabbing that took place on Saturday. If you didn't get the news page notification earlier today, the 2 teens were given a $500,000 bond. And they had been both taken to separate juvenile detention centers. But they were in court today. Juvenile cases are closed off to the public. Their names weren't released. It appears, we will not know their names, appears they will be tried as juveniles. There might be a case where one might be tried as adult, maybe. If that is, then we would have the public would have access to that. But right now, everything is not public on those deals. So, Rodney asked a question. Rodney asked, could her family sue him? Yeah, a civil case, I'm sure could be, definitely could be there. We see that a lot of times. In cases, and the most knownly was probably the O.J. Simpson. He was found not guilty criminally, but found guilty civilly and had to pay that. So, yeah, I would certainly think her family, if they wanted to go through that process again, could sue him. I don't know if that's what they want to do or not. Again, unable to talk to them today. Obviously, they wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. Margaret, it's the name. I don't know if you're referring to that his name. I personally had never heard of Zach Simmons. None of the jurors did. None of the, as far as I know, the attorneys didn't do it. If the judge did, I promised he would recuse himself. He's not from Logan County. He works in Logan County, but he's not from Logan County. So, but judges are always fair because if that's known, that's an easy appeal if that ever finds out there. So as far as that is concerned. So all right. Well, I appreciate everybody. Appreciate all the great compliments. You guys are super kind. And I know everybody can't be inside the courtroom. So I kind of made my way in there every day so I can come and report to you guys, because I know you can't be there. You can't be at all these meetings. So I feel like I can be the in-between guy to help relay all that information. Hopefully I did it a little bit well. And if you have any more questions, you can be sure to message me on Facebook or message Guthrie's page, and any certain questions I'll be glad to ask that if I can. So I appreciate all the great compliments, all the stars, and I promise all those stars will go to continuing to make these video productions better with equipment and all that good stuff. So I appreciate everybody, and I hope everyone has a great week, and hopefully things can slow down here a little bit in Guthrie. Remember, this happens these things happen in towns all over America. Guthrie is not the exception to any of that, and Guthrie is a great place to live. I know some people will disagree and say all that stuff, negative stuff about Guthrie. It's just the way the world is. People are going to have opinions on different stuff, and we all differ. And ain't that a good thing that we all differ? But I love Guthrie. There are bad things that happen in Guthrie, but that doesn't mean one or two or three bad people make up the rest of of what Guthrie really is. And I get to hear both sides all the time. I listen to everybody's opinion. I'm not going to change anybody's opinion, but I see that opinion, especially when it comes to water. Guthrie water. Well, Shawnee has water problems and all this stuff. So I'll get off that soapbox. But I do love Guthrie, and I hope everyone does too. And just remember, couple of bad people don't make a town. So have a great week. We'll talk to you next time. So long.